I'm Becky Gillespie with Troop 2009, and we're getting started today on a new badge for our Girl Scout juniors. Now, this is the first time I've ever done a video badge for anybody, so please bear with me if it doesn't go as smoothly as possible, because again, this is my first time, and I think we're all on a bit of a learning curve right now with the new learning from home and doing school from home, and now Girl Scouts from home. So to open our meeting, as we work on our digital photographer badge, I want everybody to stand up with me, and of course we always start every meeting with our Girl Scout promise. So here we go. On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to help people at all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law. So for our meeting today, as we get started with a digital photographer, there's going to be a few supplies that you're going to need for this badge. You're going to need a pen, some paper, and a digital camera. So a digital camera can be an actual digital camera, or it can be a camera that you have on your smartphone, on your tablet, or your iPod. Any one of those devices will work as long as you have a camera. If for some reason you don't have access to a camera, don't worry. You can still absolutely do the digital photographer badge. It'll just be a little bit different, but it's still for you as well. So if you don't have a camera, be sure to grab these supplies as well. You'll also need scissors, magazines, glue sticks, and a poster board. Again, those supplies are only if you don't have access to a digital camera. So go ahead and pause the video right here while you get the supplies that you need. All right, welcome back to Digital Photographer. Before we can begin learning how to take our own photos, let's take a look at other people's photos. And so I'm going to show you 3 different photos and have you think about your favorite one. Then jot down some ideas as to why that photo is your favorite one. And then out of the 3 photos, if you have a least favorite, make notes about why that one is your least favorite photo. So here we go. Our first photo we have is a portrait of a girl and her cat watching a butterfly. Our next photo is of a young boy leaning on a fence. And then our last photo is a girl with a suitcase out on some train tracks. So again, if you need to pause the video at any point to make your notes on things, go ahead and do so. But I want you to think about which of those 3 photos was your favorite and why, and if there was one of those that was your least favorite, why didn't you like that one? So there are lots of ways that we can take photos. As I mentioned, some of the devices that you can use are your phone, any sort of mobile device with a camera, even your laptop, or even just simply a digital camera. But how you take the photo is what makes it special and gives it a unique perspective that no one else has. So once you know the basics of photography, you can have fun taking one-of-a-kind photos. So our digital photographer badge is actually going to be split up into 2 meetings. We're going to do the first half in this video, and then we'll do the second half in a second video. So during these 2 videos though, you're going to find out how to become a digital photographer. And then today, we're going to focus on learning different camera modes and how to frame your shot. And then you'll get a chance to start taking your own photos too. We're also going to learn how to take photos and look at the world around us with a photographer's eye. So as we started today, you looked at different kinds of photos that are called portraits. This is a mode that's on most digital cameras and on most devices like phones and tablets as well. You can find a portrait setting. This is the kind of photo setting that shows people or objects close up. And with the portrait setting, you'll notice that the one object is the focus of the photo, and then the rest of the background tends to be a bit blurred. So for example, like in our photo of the girl with the suitcase on the train tracks, you'll see that the girl and the objects immediately around her are in focus, but the rest of the surroundings are blurred out. Same thing as well with our boy on the fence. The background is a bit blurry. And even with our girl with the cat, notice how the background is blurred out, and even the foreground with a lot of the flowers is blurred out as well. So these are all samples of portrait photography. So think about which one you liked and why, and what might you as a photographer do differently for each of those 3 photos. When taking a portrait, you want to be sure and focus on something that's interesting. So what will you look for in your photos that you take in the future if you're doing portrait photography? But before we start taking those photos, it's important to learn how to hold the camera properly. So no matter what type of camera you use, you will want to make sure that it is steady. So stand with your feet shoulder width apart, and so that you have a good base. You want to be nice and steady. Don't lock your knees out. You want to keep your knees a little bit flexible, but have a nice solid base. And then whether you're using a phone or a digital camera, a tablet or a computer, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The type of camera doesn't. You want to make sure and keep it steady. And then you want to be sure and use both hands on the device and tuck your elbows in close to your body. Again, this helps stabilize the camera. And then as you are about to snap the photo, you want to make sure that you're not breathing too deeply. Many photographers will take a deep breath in and then snap the photo and then breathe out. So today I've got my iPhone with me for taking pictures. So if I'm taking a photo with this phone, what I'll do is I'll make sure that I've got my legs shoulder width apart so I have a nice solid base. I'm going to hold my camera with both hands and then keep my elbows in nice and tight. And then while I take my photo, I'm going to take a deep breath in, snap the picture, and then exhale. And then you end up with a nice photo of what you're doing. Oh, look, it's me on the video. So I want you to go ahead and pause the video again so that you can practice doing those steps, having a firm base, holding your camera with both hands, and then keeping your elbows in. And then as you start to take the picture, take your deep breath in, snap the photo, and then breathe out. So pause here to practice taking some photos. For our next part of this badge, I have included along with the video an image that you can take a look at or print out if you want, and it talks about the common digital camera modes. That piece is actually going to look like this, but holding it up in this video isn't going to help you too much because it's going to show backwards in the video. So you'll want to take a look at this file separately and learn a little bit about the different camera modes. I'm going to go over them quickly so that you know what I'm talking about, but again, please refer back to this as well. So most of our digital cameras, because nowadays most people use their electronic devices, their phones or their iPods, their tablets, those are the kind of things people most often use for taking photos. And so these are frequently the settings that you'll find on them. The automatic setting is the one that comes up automatically when you turn on your camera without making any other changes within the camera app. It's when in doubt, it's a good setting to keep your camera on because it's the most universal one that you'll have for taking most of the photos. The rest of the settings that you're going to use will be in more specialized situations. So for example, there's the portrait mode that we talked about for capturing a particular object or person and that being the focus of your photo. There's also landscape mode. And so landscape mode is if you're looking to take a photo of a landscape or the scene in front of you and you're looking to get a wider view of what's going on, that's the landscape mode. It's really good for distant things like mountains and scenery that you're trying to capture. There's also a mode called macro, which to be perfectly honest, you'll find it on digital cameras, but I haven't found it as much on devices like phones and tablets and computers. This one is a little bit more specific to digital cameras, but the macro mode is actually pretty cool. It lets you to take photos of objects in a really close-up setting so that they're very crisp even when you zoom in very closely. And that one is good for small objects, for things like bugs or flowers, anything that's really small that you want to capture a lot of that detail. Another mode that you might encounter is night mode. Those are the modes that are great for taking pictures when there's of course, when it's night outside, when it's dark out, or in any setting that you don't have a lot of light. There's also, you might find sports mode, so that would be for any time there's a lot of fast action that you're trying to capture, so movement, whether races or you're at a sporting event or you've got a fast moving animal that you're trying to capture. The sports mode would be good for that. And then finally, what I'm using right now actually on my own tablet is the movie or the video mode. And so this lets you take digital video. And so depending on your device, you might be able to take short videos, or if you have a bit more memory, you can take longer videos. But again, something fun to play with. So now that we've taken a moment to talk a little bit about the different camera modes, I want you to start thinking of those different modes and thinking like a photographer. So even if you aren't using a digital camera, you can still think in terms of these different modes, because these labels can help you when you start thinking about the particular photos that you want to take. And so we're going to start putting a few of these into practice today. The first one we're going to start with is the macro mode. And now again, as I mentioned, a lot of devices don't necessarily have a label on them called macro, but you can still achieve the same effect by using the proper stance that we talked about and having the good posture, and then carefully holding your device really close to the object that you're trying to take a photo of. And as you're watching it, you want to zoom in and stand as close as you can to that object, but still keeping the focus as clear as possible, and then take your picture. I'm going to show you some examples though of macro photography and see if you guys can guess what they are. The first couple are going to be easy, but my last two are a little tougher. So this is one that someone was able to capture with a digital camera, and up here in Nevada County we've actually encountered a lot of these recently with the snowflakes. But look at the detail that you can get in the macro mode with a snowflake. Another fun one that we've got, see if you can guess what this one is. I'll give you a moment before I tell you. The detail on this is just amazing. In case you haven't figured it out yet, it's the tines of a fork with some liquid dropping off them. How cool is that? Did you ever realize that a fork could be so cool when looking at it close up? All right, here's my last two that are a little bit tougher. We've got first this eyeball. Again, shot in macro mode. What eyeball do you think this belongs to? What animal is this? In case you didn't guess it yet, it's a crocodile. And then last eyeball, this one's a little tougher. But this one is the great horned owl. So there's some cool things that you can take pictures of when you're in macro mode. And so what I'd like you to do is to take a moment. Again, you're going to pause the video here so that you can practice with your own camera taking close-up photos. And so you're going to see if you can take maybe 3 or 4 different shots with your camera, and then ask your family to see if they can guess what those objects are, whether it's maybe a part of your body or if it's a different object that you have. Maybe if I took a really close-up picture of my lucky cat here from Japan. So anyway, take a moment to do that, and then when you've taken your photos and had a chance to show them to your family, unpause the video and come back. Now that you've had a little bit of fun with the macro mode on your cameras, I want to tell you a little bit more in regards to things that you can do with photography. Have you ever heard the expression, a picture tells 1,000 words? Well, a photojournalist is someone who captures images that tell stories. For example, in 1936, Dorothea Lange took a photo of a poverty-stricken woman with her children. That photo allowed millions of people to realize how poverty was a real problem in America. Dorothea took pictures of human suffering to help others understand what was going on and helped people to connect with strangers in need. That's the power of a photograph. Can you think of ways photography can help others? For example, there are some ways, maybe perhaps to figure out a crime scene, to document a natural disaster, to show how others need help with homelessness or hunger, or to show how things happen in our environment, like drought or pollution. Or even with our situation right now with the coronavirus, you can use documents or photos to document daily life of what it's like being under stay-at-home orders, doing your schoolwork from home, and having to be with just your immediate family members and not being able to go out and experience social interaction with others. That would be a great thing to document through pictures right now. We're getting close to the end of this portion of our digital photography badge, so hang in there with me. Now's our chance, since we've looked at portraits and we've looked at macro photography and the things that photography can do, now we're going to try taking some photos of ourselves. It's time to try different camera modes and styles and to go on a photo scavenger hunt using your own camera. So what I want you to do is you're going to have 4 photo assignments, just like you were a real digital photographer. So first, take out your pen and paper and write down the things that you're going to look for, and then you're going to go on your hunt. So step number 1, you need to take 6 macro photos of your body. So you can zoom in, and this might work even a little bit better if you're trying to get shots of your face, going into a bathroom and using a mirror to take those photos. But you need to get 6 macro photos of your body, arm, leg, elbow, nose, ears, doesn't matter. The next 6 photos are objects that are all the same color. So maybe pick your favorite color or a color that you might have a lot of around the house, but go and take 6 photos of objects that are all the same color. Then, next assignment, take 3 portrait photos of different objects or friends. And remember again, portrait photos don't have to be of people. They can be of objects as well. Again, putting your camera in that portrait mode so that the object or the person is the focus of that image. So taking 3 portrait photos. And then the final piece of this assignment, take 6 photos of someone in motion. So you'll need a family member in the house to help you out with this one, but take 6 photos of them in motion. It can be maybe them doing jumping jacks, or maybe them spinning in a circle, or anything in motion though. You want to grab 6 photos of them in motion. And for those of you who don't have access to a digital camera, don't worry, you can still do this assignment as well. Using those magazines I asked you to get earlier, you can cut out 4 photos that are an example of a close-up, 4 photo examples of objects that are all the same color, 4 photo examples of a portrait, and then 4 photo examples of someone or something in motion. So if you need some more time to write down those lists, go ahead, pause the video, rewind it back, and you'll get those lists again. Once you have your list, go ahead and pause the video where you're at right now so that you can go complete your digital photographer assignment at this point. Welcome back, and I hope you had fun completing your digital assignment. Now, I want you to take a photo, or if you don't have a camera, imagine a photo of a bowl at different angles. Sometimes what makes a photo interesting isn't the subject, because honestly, is a bowl by itself necessarily interesting? Probably not. But the angle at which that photo is taken can make all the difference. So grab a bowl from your kitchen, take a few photos of the bowl, and so try taking some with your camera from above the bowl, from the side of the bowl, maybe looking up at the bowl, but try different angles. Are there any other ideas that you have on how you might be able to make that photo more interesting? And you can pause here to get your bowl and make those photos as well. Now that you've experimented with taking photos of the same object but from different perspectives, we're going to bring our meeting on digital photography this time to a close. In our next meeting, as we continue learning about being a digital photographer, we'll need to use photos for some of these projects. So for the next meeting, please bring 2 photos of yourself. We will be changing them and doing some cutting, so make sure to make a copy of those photos or let your parents know that the photos that you're using you won't be bringing them back in the same form. They will be altered a little bit. So be sure and check with your parents first regarding the photos, but you'll need to bring 2 photos. Make sure that one is a regular photo of you, so maybe if you have a candid shot or a school photo or a picture of you that your parents have taken, that's great. And then the other one that we're going to need is a close-up of one of your body parts. So going back to some of those macro photos that you took of your body part, you'll need something, whether like your eyes or your nose or maybe even your smile, but we'll need a macro photo as well. So be sure and bring those 2 photos for this next time. So thank you again for joining me for part 1 of our digital photographer badge for juniors for Girl Scouts. And I look forward to seeing you in part 2 of our video with digital photographer.